Hello and welcome to our very first conversation at Meet Us at the Cafe. Who are us? That's you, capital U, capital S. That's us. We are the unsung survivors, the unstoppable seniors, and we are the uniquely spectacular, and we're sharing our story. And we are here to inform, to engage, to laugh, because we're going to need a lot of that in our journey. How did we come to be? Well, let me tell you a little bit about the story. I go to American Family Fitness. I attend the aerobics class and other senior group activities. In my journey, I have met a whole lot of seniors who shared their stories of strength and resolve. And ding, 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 here I go with a thought. Why not share their stories for others to see? And I started pulling together a plan. I went to the Urban Farmhouse Cafe in Richmond, Virginia, because I said, wow, it would be great if we could all sit around and drink coffee and just casually tell our stories and encourage each other. Then I met Bob Hutchinson. He was a physical fitness trainer at the American Family Fitness. And he also had a weekly show, not a show, I'm not so into shows, but a workshop that dealt with senior issues. I talked to him and he said, I love to do it. So I put plans in place and I said, let me start producing this show in March of 2020. March 2020 came and so did COVID-19. After 3 weeks, I came from under my covers and I said, enough already. And I lifted my head and I took a breath and I said, my goodness, I am still here. Hello, world. And so are the stories of the seniors that need to be told. I called Bob. I said, hello, Bob. We're going to have to make some changes. American Family Fitness is temporarily closed. The Urban Farmhouse Cafe is closed. Are you still interested? He said, yes. I've had some health issues, but I'm still interested. Then I called a dear friend of mine, Elaine, that'd be you. I called my dear friend and I said, Elaine, I have a show idea. I would love for you to participate. She heard the idea and she said, Bob, what happened to you? I'm seeing you. There you are. And I said, okay, would you be interested? And Elaine said, I certainly would be interested. And here we are. So that's the introduction. You have to still live, even being told that the odds are against you. So we're going to tell our stories, and we're going to start with Bob. Bob, you are the first conversation that we're having. And before we get into your philosophy on facing mortality, do you mind if we have a short conversation about your life?
No, not at all.
Okay. Is there anything in your childhood that stood out and helped to lay the foundation for who you are?
Well, I had a great childhood. I was very fortunate. I had both parents for many, many years until I was an adult. I grew up with a strong family bond. I went to good schools. I finished at a private school here in Richmond in high school, and then went to the University of Richmond where I finished. And
what was your major, Bob?
My major was English history and a minor in religion.
Oh my goodness. Look, there's more to you than a handsome face. Oh my goodness.
I keep telling you, I'm not just a pretty face.
I love it. And Bob has a sense of humor. He'll close us out with one of his all-time jokes. Is there any moment in your growing years before you became a senior that is pivotal to you, that just helped mold you into, or helped you evolve into who you are?
Well, I get into a lot of discussions with people about religion, especially people who think you need to have a born again moment.
Yes.
I never had a born again moment. I was always a Christian.
Okay.
I, it was always a basic feeling and acceptance of Christianity. Not that other religions are not valid, but I never had a born again moment because I never really needed one. I don't think, because I accepted everything, all of the tenets that Christianity taught me years and years ago. I've taught Sunday school, and basically, in my studies of other religions, I always go back to Christianity because that to me is the truth. Not that the other religions are not the truth. It's just, for me, it's the most. I guess the word truth would be the most valid, and everybody has to seek their own truth, whether it be Christianity or Judaism or being a Muslim or whatever. But you have to find something that you're basically secure in and that you can bounce all of your problems off of and know that things are going to get better.
So you feel that your faith is what took you through, it's taking you through. Would you say that?
I hope so. I hope so.
Okay. Is that a combatant to fear? Do you have fear?
Oh, yes. We all have fear. I don't have a fear of death, and I don't have a fear of dying. But we all have fears in our lives. The coronavirus has caused a lot of fear in a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And my feeling about the coronavirus is there are a lot of people our age who have gotten it and survived it. It's just whatever your immune system is. And a lot of young people have gotten it and not survived it. So there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just that, like faith, if you have a basic structure and foundation in nutrition and health, as in faith, then you're going to make it through. It's your immune system that's going to keep you from dying from the virus or anything else before your time. So
I hear you. That is a profound concept, and so we'll talk more about that. And as a matter of fact, there's so much in what you said that we can do several shows on that or several conversations. Now, Bob, talk about your career and some of the things that you did over the span of your life. What did you do? You had a background in theology or religion, and you didn't go into the ministry?
No, I did not go into the ministry. When I first got out of college, I worked for an insurance company, and I hated it. It was a desk job, and I couldn't stand it. And so I eventually gravitated toward the photography business. I'd been taking pictures for years in high school and college, and I found that when I was working in the insurance business, I was making more money part-time in photography than I was working my normal job. So I opened up a studio, and this was back in the early 70s. And I opened a studio. It evolved into a bridal shop, and we did everything. We did bridal gowns. In fact, I even designed a couple of bridal gowns. I wouldn't admit that to too many people except you. And I designed a couple of bridal gowns.
He always manages to interject some humor, and that makes it that lightens the moment. Thank you, Bob.
But I did. One of our first customers was a wonderful lady. She was kind of big, and she came in tears because she couldn't find a dress she couldn't find anything that anybody would consider selling her because of her size. So what we did was, she was a delightful lady, and just we were so happy to do this for her. So what we did was we took two dresses, and this lady was a large lady, and her personality was even larger than her body. She was just amazingly nice. And so I was determined we were going to do something for her when she came in. So we took two dresses, and combined the two and put them together. And she was so happy she didn't know what to do. And so that was one of our first experiences. And from her business, she sent us, I don't know how many brides for the rest of the season, because she was so well loved and such a gregarious individual. And I learned there that you never turn anybody away, no matter what, you know. And the
What
other
a
bridal
story.
shops, bridal shops had turned their nose up at her because of her size, and they just didn't want to deal with her. But I had a great seamstress, and we got together, and this lady was so happy when we did what we did that, like I say, she sent us a lot of business. We also had catering. We had men's formal wear. I did the photography. We had invitations. We did everything but supply the groom. And we had a couple of, we had a couple of guys we tried to get rid of during the course of the year, but we didn't get any takers, so that
Oh,
didn't work.
well,
But
what a story, Bob. Well, listen, how did you get into physical fitness? Because that's how I met you, and your story seemed to be so unique. We never got in depth about it, but how did you get into physical fitness?
during the time that I was in high school, I was kind of a small person. I was small framed and small boned. One year, I got my parents to get me a set of weights for Christmas. And I
Wow.
put them in my bedroom, and I started lifting weights from the time I was 13 to whatever. Being in physical fitness, you learn to kind of go into a form of self hypnosis, and you put the pain behind you. I've never really been good at dealing with pain as far as feeling it.
Your body started to break down. First of all, you said you had heart problems and then your
Yes.
kidney. So talk about that for a minute, and how did that affect you being so into physical fitness?
Well, it was quite a shock because I never really had a heart attack that I felt, and I may have had a heart attack, but I didn't really register as one. I called the doctor one day because I was having a little trouble breathing, and I thought it was hay fever or asthma or whatever. And he was doing his rounds at the hospital, and he said, "Well, instead of you coming to the office, meet me at the hospital, and I'll get treated as a regular checkup." I went to the hospital, and they found that I was in atrial fibrillation, AFib, and that I was having. They told me I wasn't going to go home. I was going to be in the hospital, and they found that I had serious heart problems. And the day before, I'd been working. In fact, I think I'd even worked out the day before. So it was quite a shock to me. I tried to talk him out of it. I told him, I said, "Well, why don't we give this a day or so and I'll come back," that kind of thing. But my wife and the doctor said, "No, you're going to stay here." And so this was on a Sunday. And during the couple of days, they gave me all kinds of tests and they checked me out, and they didn't know what to do. My heart was in horrendous condition, and which was a shock to me too, because like I say, the week before, I'd been living a normal life, and they came up with every alternative that they could think of. In fact, I thought one day I was going to wake up and be attached to a farm animal and had some kind of a sheep's heart in me. I had no idea. It was just bizarre. So by chance, one of the doctors in the group was a friend of mine. He knew my background as far as physical fitness goes. And he said, "Well, look, let's go in, open him up, and let's do try some bypasses and see if that helps." Because that was basically one of the things that they wanted to do. We had a guy who was trying to put an LVAD on me. An LVAD is something that you carry around and it works on the left part of your heart. I mean, they were even talking about heart transplants. It was that bizarre. So they opened me up and gave me 6 bypasses, which is almost the record. I was going for the record, but I never quite made it. The record is 8, I believe.
Oh my goodness. So you were up there.
Yeah, I was right there, but
Yeah.
I didn't make the record book.
Is there anything as you look over your life that you would have done differently?
No, not really.
Why
I,
not?
I I never was a big drinker. I never had any bad habits. I've never gotten into any trouble. I was always always went by the rules. Always, but I was always very staunchly independent within the parameters of the rules. But I never. There was nothing. I guess probably because of the kidney situation, I should have had more water. I should have drunk more water. Uh, as far as the heart situation goes, I probably inherited that from my father,
Mm.
and I probably should have done a little bit more aerobic stuff. But I don't really, I mean, I don't really think that I would have done anything any different.
Should we call you Saint Bob?
No,
We
no,
shouldn't.
not
We,
by any means. No.
okay. Well, how would you like to be remembered?
Yeah, that's a hard question because I mean, I like to be remembered as a good dad, somebody that loved their kids, loved his wife,
How many
and
children do you have, Bob? How
three.
many? Okay, three. Uh-huh.
Well, I think I've got three. I get every now and then on Father's Day, I get a card that's unsigned, and it's kind of strange. And one year I got a card with a kid holding up a pair of dungarees, and he said, "Thanks for the jeans," and I really didn't know what that meant.
Oh,
So,
Bob, leave it to you. Well, with that in mind, Bob, would you do us the honor of reading what you feel about facing mortality?
sure.
And then Elaine and I will join the conversation because I know she's so insightful that she can bring more to the conversation. Okay, so please read that.
Sure. As I approach the end of my life and reflect on death and its finality, I tend to reassess my life in terms of what I have achieved as opposed to what I thought I would achieve. And as most people would agree, one hardly ever gets to where they want to be. But gratitude and the realization that what you have left in terms of family and their future achievements can be an extension of what I wanted to achieve. When we get older, we get desensitized to the thoughts of death. When I was younger, the mystery of dying was frightening and something a young person had difficulty comprehending. As my faith developed and the reassurance of Christ's words concerning death and eternal life became more comforting through my maturation, I have no fear of my mortality. And even though it will always have some mystery about it and the sadness that comes with the thought that I will no longer be with my loved ones, the inevitability will never escape any one of us. And the hope and knowledge that the unification of my family will be ensured one day is what makes it easier to accept. As we get older and illness and pain can beset us, the thought of a peaceful, non-painful existence can make death somewhat easier to accept on a visceral level, even though we fight to survive as an instinct. Now, some skeptics may refute any thoughts of heaven or pie in the sky when you die, but my contention is that any mature adult must come to grips with his or her mortality and reconcile themselves with the fact that the inevitable is inescapable.
Thank you, Bob, so much for sharing that with us. And Elaine, let's join in the conversation.
Okay.
Bob, can you read that last sentence that you have, that last paragraph? Now, some skeptics may refute any thoughts. Can you read that?
Yes. Now, some skeptics may refute any thoughts of heaven or pie in the sky when you die. I think that was Marx or Lenin that said heaven was pie in the sky when you die.
Okay.
But my contention is that any mature adult must come to grips with his or her mortality and reconcile themselves with the fact that the inevitable is inescapable. And one other thing I'd like to add, I deal with a lot of older people in my personal training. And I wonder how many of them ever think of death. Because it's not something you really bring up when you get to be a certain age. I've always told people that 50 is the line of demarcation. If you die before you're 50, they say, well, he died so young. If you die after you're 50, they say, well, he had a good life, you know?
Yeah.
That's it. But how many people who are really, really elderly and hurting, how many of them really think of death? A lot of people who are in pain think of death as a release and an escape. And that could be one way that nature prepares you for it and prepares you for the relief from the pain. But it's just something you just don't bring up to older people. And that's something that really should be discussed more, I think.
Well, but that's why a show such as Meet Us at the Cafe is so important, because there's so many of us and we're living longer and we're supposed to be so much more intellectual. We've got to face the realities of life. Elaine, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I would say basically we should all live every day as though it is our last. To be able to have touched someone that day, maybe made them smile, even thinking of Bob and his sense of humor. I just feel like each day is a gift. It really is, and we just have to embrace it and make a difference as we go along.
What, do you have any questions for Bob, or how he feels, or anything that he said?
Well, I was thinking about the way he was saying how people perceive if you pass away before you're 50, then you died so young. And then after 50, it's like you lived a good life. And I just feel like that's the way society looks at it. And yet I think it's like, when I think of my own parents, my dad died at 97 and my mother died at 92. And when they passed away, I felt for the first time in my life, I was in my 70s at that time, that I was an orphan. I had no parents. And then I think about all of my friends.
Interesting. Say that again. So at 70, you felt like, in your 70s, you felt like you were an orphan.
An orphan, because
How about that?
I had no parents. And
I
then
had the same
thought
feeling.
about all my friends who had lost their parents years ago. And then I thought, you know what? I have been blessed to have had them so long.
I think we'll go right into the next segment, which is Bob's nutritional tips for us. Let's talk about vitamins and mineral supplements, Bob.
Okay. I'll read what I wrote, and then we'll go get into something else. Most people, when they get older, do not eat as well as they should for many different reasons, some being economic or failing taste buds, or it's just too much trouble if you're alone. Actually, eating less when you get older can be beneficial if the food you eat is nutritious, but we seldom get all the nutrients we need in our food, so supplementation with vitamins and minerals is often a good idea. Elderly people are generally taking prescriptions, so they have to be careful not to take supplements that could interfere with the proper absorption of their drugs. So vitamins should be taken at least 2 hours away from the ingestion of any drugs to ensure safety. My minimum requirements would be a B50 capsule. That's a capsule with all of the B vitamins in 50 milligram units. Vitamin C, 500 milligrams 3 times a day. Zinc, 50 milligrams, and vitamin D3, 5,000 international units. Oddly enough, what I just told you is what is recommended for people to get as much immunity from the COVID. And zinc is an amazing booster. And people should be taking zinc every day. We don't often get zinc in our minerals. We don't get minerals per se anymore because the food doesn't have minerals in it. The only time you get zinc is when you're closer to the ocean, and you get zinc and you get your iodine, and because iodine will seep into the earth. So we have to take mineral supplements. So But you have to be careful because of the prescriptions. Every one of us at our age is taking a prescription drug, and prescription drugs can be very, very injurious if you take them with the wrong supplements. So you have to talk to your pharmacist, not your doctor. It's not your doctor's job to know that. It's your pharmacist's job to know that. In fact, I tell a lot of people if they're taking 5 or 6 different medications in the morning, I tell them to check with their pharmacist because that can be really bad for you because your liver is the triage system of your body, and your liver can be overworked if you put too many different drugs in your body at the same time. So there are certain times of day that you should take your drugs. Like if you're taking a statin drug for cholesterol, you should take that at night because cholesterol builds up at night, and the statin drug can work for against it. Things like that that you need to know, and your doctor's not going to tell you that, especially in this day and age. So you need to read the little pamphlet that comes with your prescription. Don't get all scared over the interactions and the side effects. That can scare you to death because they don't happen that often. But these are things that are possible. But you need to know when to take what with what because it can be very it can really invalidate some of your prescriptions, or it can make some of your prescriptions so much stronger that they have a deleterious effect on your body. So that's my advice there. But your B vitamin, your C vitamin, your zinc, and your vitamin D3 are basic to any nutritional program. And a lot of people will tell you to take a whole lot of other things, but that's something that you need to work on yourself. I can't really tell somebody 70 years old that they need to take ginseng, for instance, because that would give them tachycardia, things like that.
Whoa.
But so basically, you need to find someone. If you're really into this stuff, you need to find an herbalist or somebody that can do a workup on you and maybe a blood test and just figure out what you need. But the substances that I told you about are perfectly safe, and they can be a great immunobooster against the virus.
Elaine, you have anything to add to?
No, I was just going to ask Bob when he was talking about iodine, the zinc. So, a lot of us use sea salt and different things like that. And I imagine what we're saying, too, is that we should use more iodized salt.
Yes.
And, thinking of high blood pressure, I know would say cut down on the salt anyway.
Well, that's why we've got such a problem with thyroid problems today, because people are not using the salt. Now, what you need to do is eat more seafood to get iodine.
Now, that is a new tidbit of information. So what we're going to do is wrap this up. It has been most informative. Bob, we'd like to see just how you can end this.
Well, I tell you, I do have to leave. I've got some relatives coming in from Alabama. They're in the elephant. They have an elephant farm, and they sell ivory. And you've heard of the elephants in Alabama, haven't you?
No.
Yeah, because that's where the Tuscaloosa.
So we're going to have to come back and we'll see how the audience responds to these things that we're talking about. And that will dictate future conversations that we have, because the audience will let us know what they want and how they want it given to them so they can digest it, pun intended. Until next time, thank you for meeting us at the cafe. Cheers, cheers, cheers.
Cheers.